In business, it's never just another day. Every day is the day. It could bring your biggest order yet or a new cyber threat. Whatever the day holds, with Comcast Business, you'll be prepared. With a network that can deliver gig speeds to most businesses, Comcast Business Security Edge to help protect your connected devices, and a dedicated team available 24/7. Every day in business is a big day. We'll keep you ready for what's next. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
A message from Virginia Department of Health. Not feeling well? Your symptoms may not be allergies or a cold. They may be an early sign of COVID-19. Go to vdh.virginia.gov and search by your zip code and find a COVID-19 testing site near you.
We're going to get started here momentarily, but I did want to go through just a couple quick reminders. If possible, we would request that everyone please go ahead and stay on mute until it is your opportunity to ask questions. The way we're going to structure today's press conference is we will have opening statements from each of our three commissioners, followed by a question and answer portion. When we get to that question and answer portion, I'll be glad to provide some instructions on how we will go about making that happen. I would also like to let the group know that we are recording this both from an audio and a video perspective, so we will have those files to share later. It's now my pleasure to introduce the three commissioners who will each give a formal opening statement before we ask any questions. Let's start with ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips. Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for your interest and for taking the time to join us today to discuss our groundbreaking alliance. First, I want to thank Commissioners Warren and Kleofkoff for their partnership, transparency, and commitment during our discussions over the last month or so. We never could have reached this point without our collective engagement, shared values, and open and honest communications. Similarly, I also want to acknowledge our chancellors, presidents, and athletic directors who have been instrumental in getting us to this point. Their leadership is second to none. Our discussions centered on the unprecedented environment within college athletics today and how best we, together, could address the challenges ahead, from the potential significant changes to the NCAA structure and governance, to the impacts of the Alston decision and the implementation of name, image, and likeness, from enacted and potential state and federal legislation to the postseason in college football. There are simply many critical discussions to engage in and decisions to be made in the coming months and years that will shape college athletics for decades. And we believe that together, along with our colleagues across the country, we can help play a formative role in both. What became clear from our conversations is that our institutions share values, interests, and a genuine and dedicated commitment to the overall educational missions of our world-class institutions. Collectively, our 41 schools are aligned in our emphasis on educational outcomes and on providing first-class experiences for our students who elect to participate at the highest level of intercollegiate athletics in America. Our everyday commitment to more than 27,000 student athletes within our three conferences will only be enhanced by this new alliance, allowing us to more effectively advocate and work constructively with all other conferences to achieve the best possible balance of education, competition, and commercial activity driven by the best values of higher education. As I'm sure you read in our news release, while motivated by our shared interest and common desire to help shape the future of college athletics, we are also driven by the exciting potential of a football and women's and men's basketball scheduling partnership, as well as unique collaborative events for our Olympic sports. We know that in the years ahead, our student athletes, alumni, and fans will benefit from thrilling new matchups, which will create new rivalries and excitement within our alliance. The ACC's relationship with the Big Ten and Pac-12 conferences runs deep, and our frequent non-conference competition across many sports, as well as through our ACC Big Ten women's and men's basketball challenges, field hockey and softball challenges, as well as our current bowl game partnerships. From a longer-term perspective, we are bullish on the Scheduling Alliance as it will elevate the national profile of all of our teams by playing from coast to coast with college fans across the country as the beneficiaries. The combination of national games and having a national impact and influence are key elements of this collaboration and do help create a degree of certainty in an environment that has become increasingly unstable. We recognize that there is still work to be done and decisions to be made regarding future scheduling frameworks. We are grateful to the 11 members of our athletic director subcommittee who will focus on the specific areas of scheduling for consideration. On behalf of the ACC, we are truly honored to be an enthusiastic member of this alliance and look forward to the possibilities that lie ahead. And once again, my sincere appreciation to Commissioners Warren and Kliavkoff and our CEOs and ADs for their leadership and support.
Thank you, Commissioner Phillips. It's now my pleasure to introduce Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you. Jim, thank you for your words. It's really been a pleasure to work with both you and George and to be able to discuss issues that are pertinent to college athletics and feel so strongly now that to have people in this industry, leaders at the ACC and the Pac-12 that we've been able to communicate with to deal with a lot of issues in college athletics. When the Big Ten had their first meeting at the Palmer House, only a few blocks away from where I sit here today in downtown Chicago, they came together with the vision to really build a conference, to be able to provide unique opportunities to their student athletes from an academic standpoint to an athletic standpoint, and to be able to work with George and Jim in this alliance with our respective conferences is really special. And I just want to thank all the media members who over the years who have covered the ACC and the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, the stories that you've told, the hard work, the commitment to excellence that you all have shown. We really do appreciate it. And I also would like to thank all of our chancellors, our presidents, our athletic directors, our faculty athletic representatives, our senior women administrators, our head coaches, our assistant coaches, our student athletes, and also our fans. Today is a special day. I think what it does is signifies that there still is a lot of goodness in college athletics. And this is an opportunity for us to come together in a strong alliance to work together, not only with the ACC, the Pac-12, and the Big Ten, but also other conferences in college athletics. But there's turbulence right now in college athletics. There are things that we need to address. We need to have strong leadership. We need to work together. And I'm looking forward to having an opportunity to work with Jim and George and our respective leaders on our campuses and in our conferences to figure a lot of these issues out, and also to work with our other conferences around college athletics. But there's a lot of work to be done. This last year has been monumental in college athletics, but also it's provided us with an opportunity to look forward, to come together, and hopefully this alliance will really stabilize the different issues that we're facing in college athletics. It'll provide opportunities for our student athletes, again, to not only to get a world-class education at one of our 41 institutions, but also to provide them an opportunity to play just in some epic matchups. And I look forward to working with everyone from a football scheduling alliance, from a women's and men's basketball scheduling alliance, and also in creating ways from an Olympic sports standpoint that we all can work together. But again, I think we have to keep in mind what brought us to this day, what brought us all to college athletics, and that is the student athletes. We need to make sure that we have shared values, we keep academics first, we keep our integrity and honor and collaboration together. And I look forward to not only the coming days, the coming months, but also the coming years and the impact of us forming this alliance will have on college athletics as we look over the horizon. So again, Jim, George, and all of the people on our various campuses, thank you for being leaders. Thank you for working together. Thank you for being honest with each other. And we look forward to working together with you, with our bowl partners, with our network partners, to figure out ways that we can make college athletics even more special than it already has been. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to George. And George and Jim, again, I look forward to working with you all on a regular basis.
Thank you, Commissioner Warren. And again, it's my privilege to announce Pac-12 Commissioner George Gliavkoff. Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Amy. I want to start by thanking my fellow commissioners as well from the ACC and Big Ten, Jim and Kevin, along with all of the presidents, chancellors, and athletic directors from each of our three conferences who have come together to make today's alliance announcement possible. More substantive and complex issues have emerged in college sports in the last 3 months than in any other similar time frame in history. The Alston decision, state and federal legislation, the NCAA's Gender Equity Review Report, the future structure of the NCAA, CFP expansion, and of course, conference realignment. The foundation of college sports is, in many respects, in turmoil. But these matters, while challenging, also present once-in-a-generation opportunities for the leaders in college sports to reevaluate long-standing ways of conducting our business, hit the reset button, and come together to make a positive difference in the future evolution of college sports. Despite the shifting landscape, there are some critical constants among many in college athletics, and specifically among every one of the 41 member institutions in our three conferences. These constants include a resolute commitment to our student athlete, a commitment to both academic and athletic excellence, and a commitment to protecting that which makes college sports so special for our student athletes, alumni, and fans. The intersection of these constants and the opportunities afforded by all the disruption are the reason we have come together in this alliance. Today is an historic moment, but it is the very beginning of a long journey of collaboration. It is now upon our three conferences to begin the real work that will make a difference, and to begin leading the discussion that will bring concrete positive changes both on the macro critical matters before college sports and with regard to enhancing our inter-conference schedules for the benefit of our student athletes, alumni, and fans. I want to thank my fellow commissioners once again, and Jim, Kevin, and I will be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll now transition to our Q&A portion of today's press conference. Please go ahead and use the raise hand function as part of the conference call, and we'll get to as many questions as possible. We're going to start with Dennis Dodd. Dennis, floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, guys, for doing this. For all three, I guess, do you support the college football playoff as proposed, and why or why not at this point?
Thank you, Dennis. Let's go ahead. We'll start this one with Commissioner Phillips, and then we'll go from there.
Appreciate the question, Dennis. And I think, the last couple years where we had a group of individuals take a look at a proposed new alternative, they did excellent work of providing an analysis and an option for us to consider. And I think as we all got together in Dallas in June, the idea was that we were going to spend the rest of the summer until the third week of September when we reconvened, socializing the playoff. What did we like about it? What did we have issues with it? Did it make sense? Too many games? What did it do to the bowl structure and the bowl system itself? And so certainly from an ACC standpoint, we haven't made a final decision about where we will fall. We want to take the whole entire period in order to really vet it thoroughly. And like I'm sure has happened with the Big Ten and the Pac-12. We've started at the CEO level. We've gone to the ADs, the SWAs, FARs. We've gone to the student athletes, the coaches, to collect as many data points as we can in order to give the best assessment and read possible. So that's where we find ourselves in the ACC, Dennis.
Commissioner Warren?
Yes, Dennis, thank you for your question. Thank you for joining, and just thank you for your hard work in covering college football and college athletics. I'm a big believer in expanding the college football playoff, but also I'm a big believer in being methodical and doing our homework. One of the things that I promised in our last CFP meeting is that we would do our homework. And I've had an opportunity to talk to well over 100 individuals in our Big Ten footprint. I mean, we've talked to all of our football head coaches, our athletic directors, many of our student athletes, our chancellors and presidents, and we'll be talking to our faculty athletic representatives and our SWAs, and just gathering feedback. And so I think we need to be very methodical as we make decisions, because this will impact our student athletes. And so we need to think through, the length of the season, health and wellness issues, not only physical, but also mental, primarily the academics. How does this impact final exams? We're in the Midwest, we're in cold weather climates. We need to make sure our stadiums are winterized. How does this impact our network partners? All of these different issues need to be reviewed, analyzed, and assimilated. We're still working on that now. I'm looking forward to our meeting in September. But again, the committee led by Greg Sankey and Craig Thompson and Jack Swarbrick and Bob Bosley did an incredible job. They spent hours upon hours of looking at these different issues. So we're still unpacking this information, but I do think whenever a decision is made, we need to make sure that we have an inclusive voice. We need to make sure we keep our student athletes at the center of all of our decisions, do the right thing by them. And I'm confident, and not only in Jim and George, but also all of our other brethren around college athletics, and that we'll make the right decision and do the right thing at the right time. And I appreciate the leadership of Bill Hancock and his staff with the CFP. They've done an outstanding job. So the future will be interesting as we work through what is the right thing to do for our student athletes and for the game of college football.
I'll just briefly add that the Pac-12 is 100% in favor of expansion of the college football playoffs, that there are issues at the margins, although I'll repeat what Kevin and Jim said, which is the work that was done by the committee to come up with the 12-team playoff is exemplary. There's a lot of really, really good stuff in there, but we're going through a process, as both of my colleagues mentioned. And for me, that means condensing my visits to every single school so that they're terminated by September 28th, so I can get face-to-face feedback from every one of our universities. I was in Boulder, Colorado yesterday. I'm in Eastern Washington today. And we're all doing this work so that by September 28th, we have very good feedback to provide back to the broader committee.
Thank you. We'll take our next question from Pat Forty.
Thanks, gentlemen, for whoever can answer this. There are obviously some big ideas here, but there's not much in the way of a timeline. I understand that could be a bit of a moving target, but the word I've seen is whenever it's practical. Can we at least give some rough ideas what is practical in terms of scheduling in football games, basketball games, women's basketball games?
Commissioner Warren, can we start with you for this one, please?
Sure, Pat. Good to hear your voice. Yeah, and one of the things we have to keep in mind is that we already have some existing relationships between the ACC and the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. I mean, starting with basketball, we have an ACC Big Ten Challenge. With the Pac-12, we have a volleyball relationship that we've been able to build with them. And then from a football standpoint, you think about September 11th this year, we have Oregon who will be playing at Ohio State and Washington who will be playing at Michigan. I believe between 2022 and 2035, there are already 68 games that are on the schedule from a football standpoint. And that's not including even Notre Dame in that number. I think if you include Notre Dame, it's 103 games. So a lot of existing games are already on the schedule. What this allows us to do is to focus on the existing games that we have, how do we couch those? How do we build storylines around those? How do we expand those schedules? Pat, I think one thing to keep in mind is that we've promised each other is that we're not going to interfere with any existing contracts that exist. So this is not about getting out of contracts and blowing anything up. This is about honoring those existing contracts, but also building relationships between these three like-minded conferences as we look forward from a scheduling standpoint, not only in football, but in women's and men's basketball, and also in Olympic sports, and to see if there's opportunity to build early season, mid-season tournaments or unique games that will come together. So as I think Jim has said in his comments, and George said it, we're really at the beginning stages of this. But the beautiful thing about this, we have some of the brightest minds in all of college athletics in our athletic departments, with our athletic directors and also our leaders on campus. So to be able to get in the room now over these next couple weeks and months and start rolling up our sleeves and going to work to figure out how this will come together is exciting. I mean, we know the elements are there. We have the willingness to work together. We will work together. And I think you'll see some really exciting opportunities for our football, basketball, both men and women, and our Olympic sports student athletes as we start unpacking the scheduling component of this.
Commissioner Kliavkoff, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add. Kevin and I are 100% aligned on this, as I know Jim is as well.
Great. Okay. We will take our next question from Dan Wolken.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm curious what kind of document has been signed or will be signed to formalize this alliance? How will it be legally enforceable? And will it include any language that prevents one league in this alliance from poaching members of another league?
We'll go ahead and start with Commissioner Kliavkoff for this.
There's no signed contract. There's an agreement among three gentlemen, and there is a commitment from 41 presidents and chancellors and 41 athletic directors to do what we say we're going to do. If there's any lack of specificity in the press release, it's because we want to make sure we could deliver 100% of what we promised. So we're aligned in how we want to approach this, but there's no contract, there's no signed document, and there doesn't need to be.
Commissioner Phillips or Commissioner Warren, either of you want to react?
I think George said it well.
Great. We will transition to our next question, which will be Lane Higgins. Lane?
Hey there. This one is primarily for George, but anyone can chime in. Obviously, one of the biggest pieces of college sports we've seen is this push for maximizing revenue from TV. And obviously, having these big non-conference marquee games is big, but also getting into different time zones is important. Could you speak to how this impacted the thought process and the decision making and forming this alliance, and how much that is increasingly important now that the SEC is adding two members that are, large eyeball getters in college sports?
There may be residual benefits from this alliance related to increased revenue opportunities, but that wasn't the focus of why we did the alliance. We did the alliance to protect the collegiate model, to work together on these important issues, and to create unique new opportunities for our next generation of student athletes and our fans and alumni who want to see these great games that we'll be able to create. So we weren't focused on revenue when we were creating the alliance.
Thank you. We'll take our next question from Kirk Bowles.
Yes, to any of the three gentlemen, I'm curious if y'all fear for the survival of the Big 12 once the expansion goes through, and is that bad for the future of college football and athletics?
We'll go ahead and Commissioner Warren, do you want to start this one? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Quite naturally, speaking for us in the Big Ten, and I'm sure George and Jim feel this way, I have the utmost respect for Bob Mosley, the commissioner of the Big 12. He's been a great leader in the Big Ten at Iowa and in the Pac-12 at Stanford, and also with the Big 12. So I'm confident that under Bob's leadership, that he will do what's best for his conference. And again, a lot of these these issues that we've been dealing with are issues that have been on the table here for really weeks and not months. And so a lot of this stuff is fresh and new, but I'm sure Bob will figure things out and will do what is right for the Big 12. There are a lot of fine institutions in the Big 12, not only from an academic standpoint, but from an athletic standpoint. And so I think as you know, situations like today, by announcing this, as we said, and I feel very strongly about, hopefully this will bring some much needed stability in college athletics. And I also think what it will do is now it will allow people to understand where everyone else stands, because some of the events over the last couple months have kind of shaken the foundation of the beliefs of college athletics. And so hopefully this will allow other conferences to be able to kind of work through their various issues and figure out what's best for them in the future. But again, Bob has only had an incredible, successful history, and I'm confident that he'll figure out what to do with his leaders in the Big 12 and on behalf of his student athletes.
Let me jump in as well. I think Kevin said it well. Let me put it directly. We want and need the Big 12 to do well. The Big 12 matters in college athletics. The Big 12 matters in Power 5 athletics and our FBS group. And so I can just tell you that we'll be watching what occurs here. And obviously this transition isn't supposed to be taking place for another 4 years. But this group in particular will be very interested to see what happens and to do everything that we can to try to make sure that, again, college athletics looks similar to what it is today, about the numbers of opportunities, the commitment to one another, the support of one another during really difficult moments, which we're faced with right now.
Winning comes in all shapes and sizes. It's different for everyone. One thing is certain. Every day there's an opportunity for a win. Just like scratchers from the Virginia Lottery. Everyday grab and go. Everyday giftable. Everyday fun. It's where anticipation meets instant gratification. Like the new Virginia Lottery Scratcher High Roller Blackjack with a chance to win up to 10 times your prize. Now, that's an everyday win. Drive to a retailer near you. Odds of winning any prize, 1 in 4.16.
Switching to Geico is a good idea, especially when you consider everything.
First off, Geico makes it easy to switch. They have licensed agents available 24/7 online or over the phone.
But if it's so easy, you might start thinking everything is easy, even big wave surfing. And it's not. It's actually quite difficult.
Well, if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds on car insurance. And you could keep saving by bundling your motorcycle, boat, and RV, plus your home or renter's insurance.
But saving money might lead you to make some questionable purchases, like a 20-foot feather boa. And do you know how hard it is to clean a 20-foot feather boa?
Well, they do have an industry-leading mobile app you can use to pay your bill, file and manage a claim, or add a new driver.
But when life gets a little easier, it makes you too confident, and you start calling everyone Ace. And you're better than that.
Well, Geico has a 97% customer satisfaction rating and has been saving people money for 85 years. It's hard to beat that.
But you're right.
Switch to Geico. It's obviously a good idea.